When ex-bunny girl Jayne Gaskin goes all in to move her family from England to a private paradise off the coast of Nicaragua and film it for a reality TV show, what could go wrong?
Turns out a lot. That island she buys, it might not have been for sale. And the ensuing drama, it just might turn deadly.
It's time to preview The Price of Paradise on this episode of So Much Crime,
So Little Time.
Before we start the show, we just want to remind you to support us on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/SoMuchCrime, So Little Time. If you do, you will get early access to episodes, bonus clips, maybe throw in some outtakes in there. We'll send you some swag. We'll also give you a shout out on the show. So it's a very affordable monthly rate. We do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Dee.
And I'm Jeff. And in this episode, we'll introduce you to The Price of Paradise from Wondery Media.
After that, we tackle a true crime question of the week.
If you haven't listened to The Price of Paradise, that is great. On our preview episodes like this one, we introduce you to a new podcast. We only discuss the first episode, so there's no spoilers for what's to come.
You'll also find a link to The Price of Paradise in our show notes.
In our next episode, we will discuss the whole series, but right now, we just want to decide if this is a crime that's worth your time. All right, Dee, before we get to The Price of Paradise, it's time to hop in the time machine.
This is very exciting.
So this crime didn't really happen at a specific time, but we decided after much debate that
So much debate.
the family moves to this island in 2001, so we would just jump in the time machine and go back to the magical time of 2001. All right, Dee, what do you got for me?
I have the number one song in Ireland
Okay.
for the year 2001. You have to name the song and the band to, there's a clue, it's a band, to win points. Okay?
Okay.
We ready?
Yep, ready.
You know, I can't afford to buy her pearls, but maybe someday when my ship comes in, she'll understand what kind of guy I've been. And then I'll win. And when she's walking, she's looking so fine. And when she's talking, she'll say that she's mine. She'll say, I'm not so tough. Just because I'm in love.
With an Uptown Girl?
Can you name the band?
Well, it was originally a Billy Joel song from like the 80s.
But not 2001 in Ireland, Jeff.
I have no idea who did that song in 2001.
It's terrible. I don't think we should be friends. It was an Irish boy band called Westlife. Have you heard of them?
Actually, I have heard of Westlife. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
That was
You could have given me
the number one
10,000
song.
guesses and I wouldn't have gotten that, but I
Yeah.
have heard
Oh,
of it.
I figured. So, you got it wrong.
Do you want to see if you can guess my song?
Oh, go on. There were some absolute bangers that year.
Yeah, I would like to take a moment and talk about those, but before we do, I want to read you some lyrics, which I think you're going to get. Same thing. I want you to see if you can guess both the song and the group. That is a hint. You ready?
Mm.
Also, when you did yours, you added a dramatic, like that, before we've done flat readings, and yours was like a dramatic reading where you added inflection to it, which is a whole new element.
I know. It's kind of hard, though, when you know the song so well and you can hear it in your head to not put in.
All right, here's mine. I'm going to start with verse one. Okay. Better move, because we've arrived. Looking sexy, looking fly. The baddest chick in sight. DJ, jam tonight. Spotted me, a tender thing. There you are. Come on, baby. Don't you want to dance with me? Can you handle?
Oh, it's
handle me.
Bootylicious,
There you
Destiny's
go.
Child.
All right, good job.
What a tune. What a year for music. Seriously.
I mean, yeah, Alicia Keys' Fallen was this year. You had Oh, as I was driving home today, "Let Me Blow Your Mind" by Eve with Gwen Stefani came on the radio.
Such a tune.
I mean, Destiny's Child had a bunch of songs this year. The one I was gonna do, but I couldn't find a verse that I felt like I could read and not sound terrible, was Shaggy. It wasn't me.
Wasn't me. And
Uh
wasn't
huh.
Angel also up there?
Uh huh. Yeah, that was also a big song this year. There was Lady Marmalade, Miss Jackson by Outkast, Love Don't Cost a Thing by Jennifer Lopez. And then in January of 2001, the top movie in the US, very appropriate, Castaway. Tom Hanks.
Oh, Tom Hanks with what was his name? Steve. What was the ball's name?
Wilson.
Oh, Wilson. Steve Wilson. Is that not a person?
I was literally this week, or I guess it was Friday, on the way to the airport talking to our executive producer, Paxton, about Castaway and why I think it's an incredibly uplifting, positive movie. And he was like, it's a major downer in the end. I was like, no, it's full of hope and positivity in the end. He's like, his wife marries another dude. I'm like, yeah, but and spoiler for a 23-year-old movie, but he meets the butterfly lady. He goes and delivers that package. Did you see this movie?
Oh.
Do you know anything about this movie?
Tom Hanks on a ball.
Yeah. It's a great movie. You should definitely watch this movie.
But now I know the end.
Tom Hanks doesn't die on the island. All right.
That's even worse. You're ruining the potential ending that I assumed would happen in my head.
Tom Hanks dies on the island.
Mm.
All right. I think is that our time machine for today?
That's our time machine for today.
All right. So we're in 2001. And yeah, let's start by talking about what this podcast is. So The Price of Paradise came out in April and May of 2024.
There are 7 episodes plus 1 bonus episode. And guess what? That makes 8. Each is about 30 to 40 minutes long.
This show is put out by Wondery, and the host is Alice Levine. All right. Should we jump in and talk about the story?
Yeah. Basically, there's one group of people. So James is a TV producer and he's looking to start up a show about people who want to buy a house or move country. And then at the same time, Jayne Gaskin is looking at buying an island and getting away from London. And she decides to do that. She buys an island, a remote island, and moves her partner and their kids. There are 3 kids there. And gets in contact with this guy, James, who's a producer, and says he was looking for someone to film. So they decide to go with them to film it.
I mean, that's kind of what we get in this first episode. We know there's going to be another key figure who we don't hear about at all in this episode. So that's going to come later. We also, we can get into the details of the episode. I feel like there's a couple of key things I want to talk about. But I feel like we should start with the opening, the pre-credit bit, which is, I think, one of the most dramatic opening bits we've heard in any show.
It was so dramatic. So there's this whole description of them being on a boat, and basically these drug lords or drug dealers have got the family on a boat and they are demanding $1 million or £1 million from them. And you hear that Phil manages,
The husband, yeah.
The partner.
Partner.
He manages to get a can of petrol or gas and empties
Fuel.
it. What?
Fuel.
And empties it over the boat and then lights it on fire as these people are around them, and then jumps off the boat, and then they're all running away.
The 3 children.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is crazy, right? Like, this is I don't know. This is the introduction to the whole show, and I was hooked from the beginning. How about you?
I mean, it was very dramatic. I'm not sure that it needed to be that dramatic. The story itself is so unique, so interesting. Do we need to hear the dramatic, this is how it ends beginning in order to hook you in? I mean, you were obviously hooked, so maybe it worked on you.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It goes from there into sort of the background of Jayne Gaskin and how she was interested in leaving England, and then James and how he finds Jayne, and then how they land on the island. I don't know. I guess I'm a sucker for a dramatic opening sequence, and this was
I
that.
mean, that was that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just don't think I needed it. I felt that the story itself was so unique. I was really excited about hearing about it, and I didn't need the start of that to be like that. And I think it also links to my next point about the host. I don't hate the host,
Yeah, I knew this was coming.
but I did at times feel like I was listening to an audiobook.
Oh,
The
why?
tone, the scripted nature, it was so scripted, and the conversation and the kind of judgment. So we're not hearing, there's no interview here as such. We're hearing some of James's dialogue, and we're hearing from Jayne, but it doesn't seem like we're hearing like an overlap.
No, I feel like we're hearing clips from the documentary that was filmed.
Yeah, and then we are hearing Alice is it?
Alice Levine is the host. Yeah,
We're hearing her commentary on it.
lots of commentary, lots of snark.
Lots of snark, but even if we veer away from the snark for the moment, I just feel like the tone is very audiobook-esque. I don't know if you listen to many audiobooks. I did previously before I just became obsessed with podcasts. But it just felt a bit too fake. And then because at the end it says, we didn't know everything that was said. Like, not everything is recorded. So some of the conversations are, might not be exactly as they said they were. It just made it feel, I don't know, it kind of broke my trust in what was happening and in like the drama and that added drama.
I hear what you're saying. I kind of feel like this was a little bit of a creative writing exercise. And because it was so dramatic, and maybe that gets back to the opening, but it really it carries throughout. Like, I think there's definitely a flair for the melodramatic, the super dramatic, the let's make a big deal out of every little point and call attention to every odd thing.
Yeah. Maybe that is playing on the parallel between the melodramatic and Jayne Gaskin as a person, because it does seem, by the sounds of it, and we hear bits, but we don't know much. It feels like Jayne Gaskin herself is quite melodramatic, maybe. So maybe the whole thing is, let's play on the fact, play on her character and bring that out. But I don't even know if that was the point. It just feels a bit trashy or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's definitely trashy. It is one. I mean, we get a description of Jayne from James. So James is the reality TV researcher, and he describes her as Jessica Rabbit meets Weird Barbie if Bratz doll did a Pamela Anderson limited edition, which I wouldn't say is a flattering description of her.
No.
It's a description. It paints a picture.
It does. And that judgment is seen through Alice Levine as well. I think there was one part where they're talking how, what's your man's name? Phil? He's walking around all buttoned up because he hates all the sand flies, and he's like, he is head to toe covered. And that is quite the opposite to Jayne, whose dress sense was more minimal. Maybe this is bringing me back to my speech and drama days. I feel that it's all very scripted and let's play with our voice. It's too much to listen to. But James makes a remark how Jayne walks around topless on the island. And then we get a judgmental thing from Alice, the host. Topless on your own private island is one thing, but topless on your own private island with the Channel 4 film crew in tow, slightly different.
Oh, every moment of this is dripping with judgment. It's throughout. But that was a particular moment. Jayne seems like a caricature of a human being, right? Like, she seems like the type of person who would jump at the chance to be on a reality TV show without really thinking through the consequences of what she's doing. But also, yeah, Alice as the host is seemingly right there with her.
I would love to know Jayne's take on this.
I wonder if we're going to get that. I wonder if that'll come. I'm guessing it won't.
I also was wondering whether the host is playing with the story more, because more than like more than other true crime podcasts we've listened to, is this feeling a little more okay because no one has died, at least yet?
Yeah, there's really no serious crime that we hear about. So, I mean, really, all we hear about in this first episode is, well, we hear about the hostage situation in the beginning, but nobody dies in that situation. There's a fire, and then we get the story of how they end up on this island. So again, this is in 2001. The reality TV show is filming them. They move to the island. The island is basically, there's nothing there, right? Like there's a shack.
There is definitely a victim here, though. Can
The-
someone please think of the children?
Yeah, these children who had seemingly a fine life in England, as far as we know, and Jayne and Phil sell everything, basically go all in on this island that she finds on tropicalislands.com. And I think this is worth noting. This is tropicalislands.com in the year 2001, which I know it's a long time ago for you.
I did enjoy those context clues, the modem or
The dial-up modem.
The dial-up modem.
I
Right
so
back.
I remember those days. The internet was not what it is today.
Mm-mm.
And the idea of buying a property on the internet like this, by the way, I did go to tropicalislands.com. That domain is currently available as of this recording if you'd like to buy it. And just taking your 3 children, where this island doesn't have electricity, doesn't have plumbing, there is not a working toilet, and it's on the mosquito coast of Nicaragua, or as the host says, Nicaragua, which every time she says that, it just, I don't know. And to my knowledge, they don't do any research about the local culture, the local languages, seemingly with a reckless abandon for their children's safety.
And maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're just not hearing that in this. Maybe we're being given this. They're reckless.
They're certainly not presented in a flattering light, right? Like the Phil and Jayne are not presented as model adults and caretakers of their children.
Even Phil apparently would have gone anywhere with Jayne, up to a cottage in Scotland or to a remote island.
I mean, he's got himself a former Playboy bunny who likes to walk around topless.
With the kids, I just okay.
I don't know. But he gets this great idea when they're there. Let's build a dive center. And then this fact comes out.
They
Not
can't
only-
even swim.
They've never dived. They can't swim. I'm sorry. How do you go live on an island, a tiny island, and you can't even swim?
I just don't know how you get that far in life.
It's a life skill,
when
right?
This is your decision.
All right.
These are
If
your
you live
decisions.
in a landlocked area, Phoenix, let's say.
Oh no, I'm not saying about the swimming. Some of my friends couldn't swim when we went to swim lessons in high school or secondary school, whatever. Like, so a couple of my friends weren't able to swim.
But you didn't live in a Caribbean island.
No, but we live on the coast of Ireland.
Is swimming like a life necessity there?
No, but my point is, I'm not judging people for not being able to swim. I'm judging. I'm being Alice Levine right now. I'm just wondering how you get that far in life when these are the decisions that you make.
All right, so we're being judgy. Alice is judgy. Everybody's judgy here.
We're judging Alice for being judgy while we're also being judgy.
I want to go on record and say that I like Alice. I think that it's a dramatic reading, yes, but I was hooked. I was engaged. I had fun with this. And maybe this also gets to my point that I've made in recent episodes about, like, I just want something where there's not a lot of horrific crimes. And so far, at least, not a lot of horrific crimes.
I think your point is actually good, and now I'm kind of rethinking. I wonder if it's not the host isn't playing with a role based off of, like, in parallel to Jayne's character, but whether it's in parallel to reality TV shows at the time. If you think Big Brother era,
Yeah.
that judgmental tone was all about that. So maybe it is in fact trying to mimic that Big Brother era, lots of commentary on people's lives. This was the start of reality TV show. Maybe that's what it was about. And I
Did
don't
you ever
know.
watch Survivor?
No.
In
Like
2000.
I know the premise.
Okay.
The
In
premise.
2001, I was watching Survivor pretty regularly. I mean, I think it's in season like 87 right now, but I was watching it at the beginning of the first several seasons. And this does sort of align to that show where you'd have a bunch of people who really had no business trying to fend for themselves on a rather grungy island doing that in competition with a kind of snarky host in Jeff Probst. One of the very few famous Jeffs out there in the world, by the way, but a solid one. Anyway, I do think it kind of matches that tone. It's, it doesn't have the Tom Hanks sincerity of Castaway, but it does kind of have the Big Brother tone to it.
It is a wild story. So one of my questions from this episode is basically, WTF were they thinking? Seriously, this is wild. Whatever about you and yourself, but it's the kids as well. It's so frustrating.
So you're not going to take your kids and go to Nicaragua?
No, that is not in the plans for right now.
You did take your kids and move to California?
California. Yes, indeed we did, which was scary and big and emotional for family and friends. Can you imagine if we were moving to the middle of nowhere? Literally.
When you moved to California, did you know that there would be plumbing and electricity?
We were hoping, but it was hard to know. So our dial-up modem was struggling before we left.
Because Silicon Valley is noted for its rustic living.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's very rustic living.
If it's known for anything, it's a lack of, of running water.
Can we discuss the name of the island? Is this the
Sure.
most narcissistic thing ever? Jayne and her kids move here and she names it
Janique. Okay. So what's not really said here, but I feel like is subtext. These are presumably white people from England.
Yep.
Moving to a Central American country
Yep.
that they have maybe a thin claim to ownership over the land,
Yep.
immediately renaming the island after themselves.
It's as if history is repeating itself.
I do really hope that goes from subtext to text in future episodes, because that is as much as we're having sort of fun with this, and as much as I think Alice Levine is having fun with this, there's a lot of real problematic elements to what they're doing, and that's not really discussed here. So I'm hoping that comes up
I
later.
will say, and if any British people are listening to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my knowledge, the education system in the UK teaches many things. But from what I've heard, it does not teach the history of England going around colonizing places as a negative, but only as a positive. So I can only believe that Jayne Gaskin and Phil and her kids believed that they were, if anything, bringing some good to the island.
I mean, they were going to build that dive center. So, I mean, that's a form of good that no one asked for.
Indeed. So, Jeff, are you eager to keep listening?
I am. I really kind of want to see what happens to these people, and I hope the kids are okay, right? Like, I hope the kids are okay. Jayne and Phil, I don't wish ill upon them.
You do
Some
with your
form of-
eyes.
some
With
form
your
of
voice
comeuppance.
is saying one thing, but your eyes are saying quite a different thing.
Yeah, what about you?
I mean, I need to know what happens.
I mean, we need to
I
know what
do
happens.
love a good audiobook, a good trashy audiobook.
We need to know who this other woman is, who we haven't heard about yet.
Yeah, the questions.
How they ended up with that, what the outcome of that hostage situation was.
What's the story with the guy?
Teodoro.
Yeah.
So Teodoro is a local guy that was hired by Phil, I guess, to be security head builder. He's an ex-guerrilla who apparently was trained in Cuba. Sounds like a kind of a scary guy who they thought, well, let this guy will help sort of protect us and help us get stuff done.
One thing we didn't talk about is when they go on their grocery shop run when they get there and they end up going to buy guns. This is the point you turn around. It is not just you. Your kids are there too. Because they hear that people often stop here because it's like they're on a cocaine highway.
Yeah, between Colombia and Miami. So this island, just to be clear, this is off the eastern coast of Nicaragua, as Alice says. Yeah, if you're taking your cocaine from Colombia, as one does, to Miami, this is a logical place to stop.
Stop
And
for
this
a
is where they
rest.
brought their 3 children.
Maybe in future they'll stop for a dive on their way.
All right. I did want to say, too, in terms of this comparing to anything else we've talked about in this show, the first thing that came to mind was Filthy Rituals.
Mm,
Did you
that's a
think of
good
that?
shout because they're judgy and it's all on the side. There's no interaction.
Yeah, the similar
Remember
sort of
how much
snarky
I
tone.
loved that one?
As I recall, it was your favorite one that we listened to.
Do you reckon there's going to be Hamster Justice League in here?
I actually think there might be. So
Gonna get good.
it's going to get good. Before we get to our true crime question of the week, just a quick reminder to check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. Also, don't forget, if you haven't given us a rating yet, please do. Don't forget to subscribe in Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to get every episode of this show.
So, Jeff, I can't help but sing this true crime question of the week. How remote would you go? Like the Limbo song. How low can you go? I didn't know if you got it. Your face wasn't doing anything there.
We don't really have a crime yet, so this isn't really a crime question. It's a question related to the show we're listening to. But yeah, how would you go to like an island like this, or where would you draw the line?
To move my entire family to.
Yeah. So do you have small children?
I did mean things and moved them halfway across the world. This is as far as I would go.
California.
Yeah, and I would not be living in the countryside. I would not be living in a remote area.
I also moved my kids, not as far as you, but when they were your kids' age, I moved them
Multiple
halfway across
times.
the country. Multiple times, yeah. But we always had a place with electricity and plumbing. I don't know.
We've
I've
gone
always-
camping before for a night.
But you haven't sold everything to go live in a tent.
No. Does any part of it interest you? Like, how remote would you go? Where have you gone?
Not that remote. Not that remote. Like I've never taken my kids camping. I've been camping.
Ever?
Never.
What?
I'd like to note that camping has, first of all, like skiing or let's say golfing, has an initial investment that either you have to decide this is something you're going to commit to with financial resources and buy the gear, buy the equipment.
Incorrect.
Whereas you could stay home or go
Sports
to a place.
Basement rents camping gear for feckle.
Sure. You could go to a hotel or an Airbnb where there's a kitchen, where there's a coffee machine, where there is a bathroom that isn't just like a hole in the ground. And so I've always...
God, you're no fun.
Right. That's the decision that I have made up to this point.
Have you ever gone and like stayed a couple of nights on like a ship or anything?
No. Have I ever slept on a boat? I don't think I've ever slept on a boat. Have you?
Yeah. When we were in Australia, we went out to the Whitsundays, which is like a very popular trip. We went for 3 nights.
Sleeping under the stars, or did you have like rooms?
Rooms.
Rooms. Plumbing, I'm presuming.
As much plumbing, like one toilet where you had to be very careful. So you're no fun, and I'm a little bit more fun. And that's it, really. Because I would maybe go for a night or two somewhere remote, but you would go nowhere.
You and I just read a book about men surviving on a rural island off the coast of Ireland.
Skellig
Yes.
Michael, for any of those Irish folk out there.
And I do love that kind of story. I have read so many books about people surviving at sea or surviving on like islands like that, whether it's Shackleton or Life of Pi or Kon-Tiki.
Oh,
or
Life of
like,
Pi
there's a-
was so
there's a
good.
ton of stories like that. And I eat those up. Would I do it? I mean, most of those people aren't there by choice, right? Like Shackleton was there by choice. Life of Pi, he was there because his ship sank, right? But I love those stories and I'm fascinated by them. So there's definitely a part of that is really appealing to me. And when Jayne talks about that at the beginning of the story of like, she just wants to go live on this island, I'm with her until I hear mosquito coast and sandflies.
She speaks about it as if that's the only option, though. I want to get away from people. I want people not to know who I am. Move to California, IA.
She could go to Nebraska to get away from people.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem like a good idea, especially when you can't swim.
No. There's a line in Jaws where they ask Chief Brody, who's basically afraid of the water, why he lives on an island. And he says, it's only an island if you look at it from the water, which is true, right? So maybe they were thinking of it that way. Like, it is only an island if you look at it from the water. If you're on the island, you're just on land. Maybe you don't need to swim. Unless you get taken hostage and brought out into the water.
Oh.
Next time, we'll recap all of The Price of Paradise.
What's going to happen to Jayne and family? Surely it'll all work out fine.
And what about that second woman's story we heard about? Hopefully she has some citronella.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So Little Time.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of MimeGov Media. The executive producer is Paxton Calariso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show in your podcast app. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.